There's a level of focus so sharp, so steady, that even chaos can't reach you. That's what this video is about. Become so focused that nothing can distract you isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a mindset, a muscle, a practice. In today's world, where your attention is the most valuable currency, being able to direct it fully, to lock in and stay there, is not just rare, it's powerful. And the truth is, most people are chasing focus the wrong way. They force it, they fight distractions, they burn out, and then wonder why their mind still drifts. But what if you could train your brain to return, calmly, quickly, without judgment, every single time? What if focus became your natural state, not your struggle? This isn't about willpower. It's about understanding the architecture of attention and using ancient, proven methods to build something modern life is quietly eroding. Unshakable concentration. In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to stop forcing and start flowing, how to build your mental guardian, and how to anchor your mind like a warrior in battle. If this resonates, make sure to subscribe. This channel is where clarity meets action. And when you finish the video, don't just move on. Watch it again. Practice what you hear. Make it part of your day. And if you've ever struggled to stay focused or found your way out, share your story in the comments or with someone you care about. Because the world needs more people who are present and unshakable. 1. Focus doesn't come from forcing it. The more you chase focus, the faster it runs. That might sound poetic, but it's a brutal truth in the age of distraction. We've been trained to believe that if we just try harder, if we grit our teeth, gulp down more caffeine, block more apps, and wear tighter noise-canceling headphones, then maybe we'll finally sit down and do the thing. But what if trying harder is the very reason you're stuck? Focus doesn't come through force. It comes when the internal resistance drops. And the problem is, most of us are unknowingly fighting ourselves. Picture someone sitting at their desk, surrounded by productivity tools. Pomodoro timers, blocked websites, and soft ambient music playing. They've done everything right, technically. But 2 hours go by, and the page is still blank. What's missing isn't discipline, it's alignment. Because real concentration doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to permission. The moment we grip the mind tightly, like holding water in a clenched fist, we lose what we're trying to hold. And the tighter we hold, the faster it escapes. That's not weakness. That's how the mind works. You don't force a muddy pond to clear by stirring it, you let it settle. The same applies to attention. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience did. They knew that clarity emerges when agitation stops, and they practiced stillness not as escape but as a form of power. Focus, they believed, wasn't about overcoming the noise, but refusing to react to it. It's not something you create through brute force, but something you allow by building the right conditions for it to rise on its own. And that begins by understanding your inner resistance. When you push your mind too hard, it pushes back. It burns energy, spins into frustration, then crashes into fatigue. That's not a sustainable focus. It's mental sprinting without breath. If you've ever sat down to work and found your thoughts drifting within minutes, thinking about dinner plans, a text you forgot to reply to, or a sudden urge to check the weather, you know what it feels like to resist reality. But the truth is, distractions aren't the real enemy. The war begins the moment you fight the fact that you're distracted. That internal resistance becomes your real opponent. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means working with your mind instead of against it. It means shifting from a mindset of control to a mindset of cooperation. You guide your focus like a river, not a rope you yank. And that starts with observation. When the mind wanders, you don't scold it. You notice, you return, you settle, you create stillness instead of stress. That's the foundation of mental discipline habits. Not rigid control, but repeated returns with awareness. Ironically, the people who build unshakable concentration are often the ones who stop chasing it. They stop labeling every thought as a mistake, stop beating themselves up over a wandering mind. They replace judgment with presence. And over time, something changes. The mind, no longer pressured or punished, begins to cooperate. It settles, it sharpens, it starts to trust you. That's when the deeper work begins, not just blocking out distractions, but becoming immune to their pull. So next time you sit down to focus, don't tense up. Don't start by gripping tighter. Start by loosening the need to control everything. Breathe once, let the dust settle, and remind yourself the stillness you're searching for isn't found through effort. It's revealed when the effort stops. That is the quiet power of attention. That is how you begin to train attention like a warrior, not with a sword, with stillness. 2. Keep your mind on one single point. A scattered beam warms nothing. A focused beam burns through steel. That's not a metaphor. It's the reality of your attention. Most people don't struggle because they lack intelligence or talent. They struggle because their attention is too thin, too wide, too easily hijacked. In a world that constantly pulls you in every direction, the real strength isn't in doing more. It's in anchoring your mind to one single point and returning to it with unwavering consistency. That point doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It just has to be yours. There's a neighbor I used to watch when I was a kid, an old carpenter who barely spoke, but every table he made looked like it belonged in an art gallery. He didn't multitask. He didn't hum along with music or check his phone every 5 minutes. He simply stared at the line of the wood, one cut at a time. That cut wasn't just his task. It was his world. There was a kind of quiet intensity to his work, the kind you don't fake. He told me once, "When I look at the grain, I see where it wants to go." That wasn't magic. It was focused, trained, and earned over years of showing up for one thing at a time. That's the lesson the Stoics knew long before neuroscience gave it a name. Build unshakable concentration by choosing one object and giving it your full attention, not just once, but over and over. The point is not to eliminate all distractions forever, because you can't. The point is to know where to return. Whether it's your breath, a phrase, a question, a movement, what matters is the return. Each return is a rep. Each rep strengthens your ability to hold, and the stronger your hold, the less the world can pull you apart. Think of your attention like a muscle. You don't build strength by flexing it once, you build it by returning to the motion again and again until it becomes effortless. That's how you train attention like a warrior, not by attacking distractions, but by committing fully to the target. One target, not 10, not 5, one. Even if your mind drifts, even if the noise around you gets louder, even if the temptation to shift is always present, you return, not angrily, not perfectly, just with discipline. People think focus is a gift. It's not. It's a ritual, a discipline, a daily mental habit forged by doing the small thing with total presence. Athletes don't stare at the crowd, they fix on the ball. Surgeons don't glance at the clock, they stay with the incision. When you anchor yourself to a single point, you stop floating, you begin to pierce through. The mind finds calm in narrowness, not because the world disappears, but because you've chosen not to follow it. In a distracted world, attention is a rare and powerful form of rebellion. When you pick your point, you take control back from the noise. When you return to it, you're proving that your mind is no longer a slave to impulse. That is clarity. That is presence. And that is how you begin to build layered mental discipline for focus, not through perfection, but through the repetition of stillness. The power isn't in never drifting. It's always coming back, to the breath, to the cut, to the word, to the moment. One point, total presence, every single time. 3. Every return makes you stronger. It's not that your mind wandered, it's that you returned. That's the training. People often believe that focus means never drifting, never checking their phone, never losing the thread of thought. But the truth is far more human and far more powerful. No one, no matter how disciplined, stays in perfect concentration forever. Not even elite athletes, not even monks in silence. The real strength isn't in how long you can hold focus without slipping, but in how quickly and calmly you come back when you do. That comeback, that return, isn't a failure. It's the foundation of mastery. There's a boy I once watched at the skate park. He must have fallen 20 times on the same ramp. But each time he got up, he made a small adjustment. His feet are a little tighter, his shoulders are a little looser. And each time, he came back with less hesitation, more clarity. Then, on the 21st try, he landed it. He didn't win because he avoided failure. He won because he built strength through failure. That's what real mental discipline looks like. It's not clean, it's not glamorous, it's not about perfection. It's about the mental muscle you build every time you come back. Stoic philosophy calls this constancy, the quiet strength of not giving up. You may pause, you may falter, but you don't vanish. That's what separates those who rise from those who drift away. When your attention breaks and you notice it, when you gently release the distraction and return to your anchor, you're not starting over. You're getting stronger. It's like lifting a weight. The rep isn't the moment you're perfectly still, it's the moment you struggle and pull yourself back to form. That tension is what builds inner power. But too often we treat distraction like a moral failure. We get frustrated, ashamed, and annoyed with ourselves. That emotion, ironically, is worse than the distraction itself, because judgment adds weight to the mind and weight kills clarity. What if, instead, you saw each return as a win? What if every time you noticed your mind had wandered, you celebrated it, not because you failed, but because you were awake enough to see it? That shift in perspective is everything. It moves you from shame to training, from chaos to stoic clarity. You start to realize that your job isn't to be a robot, unfeeling and uninterrupted. Your job is to be like a craftsman, refining each movement, each cut, each breath, with presence and repetition. You return again and again, not because you're failing, but because you're alive to the process. Imagine your focus like a compass. It doesn't stay still because the world is still. It stays steady because you keep bringing it back to true north. The more you do it, the faster the needle returns. What used to take 10 minutes of struggle might eventually take 10 seconds of breath. That's the power of quiet resilience. You're no longer afraid of distraction because you trust your ability to return. And that trust, that's what builds unshakable concentration. Not force, not willpower, but repetition. Quiet, simple, consistent returns. No drama, no story, just the discipline to come back. Again and again and again. Until one day, you look up and realize you're no longer afraid of drifting. Because you've trained the one skill that matters most, the ability to return without losing your center. That is mental strength. That is stoic focus in action. 4. When you stop forcing, you start flowing. Effort is useful, but only until effort becomes the obstacle. That's the line we rarely notice until we've already crossed it. We begin with discipline, with structure, with intention. But somewhere along the way, the effort turns rigid. The breath becomes shallow, the grip too tight, the mind too loud. What started as focused attention turns into tension. And that tension, ironically, is what blocks the very flow we were trying to create. There's a reason you can't force your way into a state of deep work. Flow isn't driven by pressure. It's invited through presence. There's a moment familiar to anyone who's ever driven alone on a quiet road. Music playing low, rain brushing the windshield, and the wheels turning almost on their own. You're alert, but you're not straining. You're not thinking about driving. You're just moving. That state, where time folds in on itself, where effort dissolves and action becomes natural, is flow. And it never comes when you're trying too hard. It comes when the trying stops. A friend of mine once painted deep into the night. No sketch, no plan, just a canvas, a brush, and silence. When he stepped back, hours had passed, and the painting was finished. He blinked and said, "I don't even remember doing it." That's not amnesia, that's absorption. That's the calm manifestation of full focus. The state where your thinking mind steps aside and your intuitive mind takes over. You're not disconnected, you're more connected than ever. Just not to your thoughts. You're connected to the work itself. The Stoics never glorified control, they glorified awareness. Control is brittle, it demands, it tenses. Awareness listens, it moves with what's happening instead of against it. When you try to dominate your own attention, you create resistance. But when you allow attention to settle, you step into a different kind of power. The kind that doesn't need force. The kind that trusts timing, rhythm, and process. That's what deep focus training is really about. Not endless willpower, but learning to let go of friction. It's the same reason elite athletes talk about being in the zone. They're not thinking about form. They're not micromanaging every movement. Their body knows. Their breath knows. Their awareness expands. And the moment they start thinking too much, when they begin to force, they break the spell. Performance suffers. That's true whether you're shooting a basketball, writing a sentence, or having a hard conversation. The more you try to control the outcome, the more you disrupt your natural ability to show up fully. Letting go doesn't mean being lazy. It means trusting the part of you that's been trained. It means having the courage not to grip so tightly. It means stepping into stillness with the belief that stillness is not empty, it's intelligent. It holds all the clarity you were chasing when you were trying too hard. And it's often in that stillness where your best ideas appear, where your next move becomes clear, where your mental clarity becomes instinct. So when the work feels heavy, when your focus feels blocked, when you feel like you're pushing and getting nowhere, pause. Breathe. Remember that not all progress is loud. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your mind is to step back and let it breathe on its own. Flow is not something you chase, it's something you allow. And the more you trust that, the more often it will return. You don't build mastery by clenching tighter. You build it by knowing exactly when to release. And that's the moment the real work begins. Not with force, but with quiet power. 5. Part of your mind is always watching. Distraction is not the enemy. Delay in returning. We often think that staying focused means locking our attention in place like a steel trap. But real focus is more alive than that. It breathes, it expands, it contracts. And even in the middle of deep concentration, a small part of your mind, if trained, remains awake, quietly watching. This is not control, it's awareness. It's not about micromanaging every second. It's about having a silent observer inside you, ready to bring you back when you begin to drift. I once knew a chef who worked in a noisy, chaotic kitchen. Orders flying in, pans clanging, people are shouting across the room, and yet he moved through the noise with ease. He cooked, he spoke with the team, he watched the timers and the sauces all at once. I asked him how he did it, and he said, "I don't control everything. I just listen to everything." That was his secret. He had trained a part of his mind to stay steady in the storm. He didn't resist the chaos. He moved with it. He kept a part of his attention slightly above the noise, not judging, not forcing, just listening. That's what the Stoics called inner watchfulness. A layer of attention that's not involved in the doing, but never leaves the room. It doesn't panic when you lose focus. It doesn't shame you. It simply notices. And that noticing is everything, because once you notice, you can return. And in that return, you get stronger. That's how you build unshakable concentration. Not by being perfect, but by becoming fast at coming back. Do you check your phone during work? Fine. You notice, you put it down. You return. That's not failure, that's training. What separates those who drift for hours from those who bounce back in seconds is this silent part of the mind that's always watching. At first, it takes minutes to notice you've wandered. Then it becomes 30 seconds, then 5. Then the return is instant, automatic, like a reflex. This is not about grinding harder, it's about waking up sooner. And once your inner watchman is trained, you stop needing perfect conditions to focus. You stop depending on silence, on locked doors, on airplane mode. Because even if noise enters, even if your attention wobbles, a deeper part of you knows the way back. This is why meditation exists in so many forms. It's not about emptying the mind, it's about noticing when you've left and gently returning. It's that exact moment of noticing, that split-second flicker of awareness that begins to rewire your attention. It's the mental equivalent of catching your balance after tripping. At first, it's clumsy, then it becomes instinct, and eventually, you don't fall at all. Or if you do, you're already halfway back before you hit the ground. What you're building here is emotional self-mastery, not just for focus, but for life. You're creating a mind that doesn't overreact, doesn't spiral, doesn't cling. It watches, it responds, it corrects without drama. And when that happens, you stop fearing distraction. You stop needing everything to go perfectly. You trust your return. You trust that part of you that's always watching. That's where peace lives. Not in silence, but in the ability to stay centered in the noise. Not in forcing your mind into submission, but in training your awareness to never fully leave. So when you drift, and you will, don't panic, don't fight, don't scold yourself, just notice and come back. Each return is a small act of strength. And every time you do it, you train the part of your mind that never sleeps, the one that watches, waits, and knows exactly where home is. 6. Unshakable focus is forged in chaos. The ones who train in silence fall apart in noise. The ones who train in chaos survive anything. That's not a clever saying. It's a law of mental strength. Because if your focus only works in perfect conditions, it's not real focus. It's borrowed clarity. And the moment life gets loud, uncertain, or fast, you crumble. That's the danger of building your attention in a vacuum. You might look composed when everything is still, but real focus is tested when the world gets messy. I once worked from a crowded cafe. There was a kid crying at the next table, someone on a video call behind me, and baristas shouting drink orders over the espresso machine. Every time I tried to lock in, I felt tension build in my jaw, my shoulders, and my breath. I kept thinking, if I could just get some silence, I'd get more done. Then I looked up and saw a young woman, maybe mid-20s, studying for the LSAT 2 tables away. Headphones on, book wide open, eyes steady. She highlighted, took notes, paused, and breathed. Her face didn't flinch at the noise. When she finally took a break, she smiled and stretched her wrists like she had just finished meditation. And that's when it hit me. Maybe it wasn't about the silence at all. We tend to believe that focus requires external order. But the Stoics taught something else entirely. That mental strength is built by training in discomfort, not by escaping it. That peace isn't found by avoiding chaos, but by refusing to be owned by it. The moment you accept this, your mindset shifts. Distractions stop being enemies. They become tools. Each phone buzz, each passing voice, each mental urge to click another tab, they're no longer interruptions. They're weights in the mental gym. And every time you return, every time you don't react, you're building unshakable concentration in the only place it really matters, the real world. Think about it. If a samurai trains only in a quiet dojo, how will he react when arrows start flying? If a boxer only spars in silence, how will he perform when the crowd is screaming? The truth is, mental clarity doesn't come from calm surroundings. It comes from mastering your own energy within the noise. Because life is noise. The inbox won't stop. The people around you won't always be mindful. The world will pull, so train where you are, train in the middle of it. This doesn't mean you don't ever seek stillness. Stillness has its place. But if you need stillness to function, you've built a fragile mind, a fragile focus. The real power is when you can sit in the noise and still choose your task. When the phone rings and you don't flinch. When the world spins and your attention holds. That's what Stoic focus techniques are built for. Not creating false control, but building quiet strength inside the storm. Every day gives you opportunities to train this. The coworker who interrupts you mid-thought. The child is calling your name while you're thinking. The chaotic line at the grocery store when you're trying to read. Each one is a doorway, not a disruption, to a stronger presence. If you can learn to breathe there, to notice without reacting, to return without emotion, you're not just focusing, you're training your nervous system to remain steady, calm, present. The goal isn't to eliminate noise, it's to stop being shaped by it. Because once you build a mind that holds steady in chaos, you'll realize something quietly powerful. Most people never train this way. And that's exactly why most people break. You won't. Not because you're lucky, but because you forged your focus where others fled. 7. 3 layers that make your focus unbreakable. Anchor, flow, guardian. Alone, they're fragile. Together, they're unshakable. That's the quiet architecture of real focus. Not built on hype, not built on hacks, but built on structure. Most people approach focus like a burst of energy, a sprint, a one-time push. But real concentration is not a one-layered act. It's a system. And like any system, it breaks if one part fails. What makes it powerful is not any single part, but how each layer supports the other, how they interact, overlap, and protect you when your mind begins to slip. One morning I sat down early to write. It was still dark, the world quiet. I picked a word, clarity, as my mental anchor. Every time my thoughts began to drift, I would return to that word. It wasn't magic, just repetition. Eventually, the words started flowing. Paragraphs formed like water. I wasn't thinking about the structure anymore. I was just inside the office. Then, halfway through, the phone rang. I answered, spoke briefly, hung up, and without thinking I went back to writing. Same flow, same rhythm, no loss. That's when I understood. I wasn't holding focus. the system was. Because I had an anchor, I knew where to return. Because I had flow, I wasn't forcing it. And because I had a guardian, a trained awareness, I noticed the distraction without being pulled into it. Most people try to build focus using just one piece. They pick an anchor and get rigid, or they chase flow and get lost, or they build awareness but don't know where to return. One by one, these fall apart, but together they reinforce each other. When the anchor holds you steady, flow holds you steady. When flow begins, the guardian helps you protect it. When the guardian activates, it brings you back to the anchor. A full cycle, a complete defense. This is what Stoic resilience looks like. Not a mind that never moves, but a mind that knows how to return, how to adapt, and how to hold itself together under pressure. It's not about being unshakable by nature. It's about being trained that way. Like a house built on 3 solid foundations, this inner structure resists collapse. Not because the storm never comes, but because the foundation has been forged, tested, and layered with intention. You don't need to be perfect to build this. You just need to train deliberately. Start with an anchor, something simple and repeatable. Then let yourself enter flow, not by force, but by trust. And most importantly, train the guardian, the part of you that watches silently, that notices distraction early, and brings you back without emotion. At first, this will feel clunky. You'll forget. You'll fall out. But the beauty of the system is that it's designed for that. It doesn't punish drifting. It's built on returning. This is why deep focus training isn't about chasing silence or cutting out every distraction. It's about engineering your inner framework to hold up under pressure. Because in the real world, silence is rare. Interruptions are constant. But if your anchor is strong, your flow fluid, and your guardian sharp, you can continue, undisturbed, while the world around you moves. That's not a trick. That's discipline. That's mental strength through design, not accident. So when you feel scattered, don't ask yourself what app you need. Ask what's missing. Are you lacking an anchor? Is your flow forced? Has your guardian fallen asleep? These aren't just techniques. They are layers of inner defense. Build them one at a time. And when they lock together, you'll no longer be fighting for focus. You'll be held by it. Not perfectly, but powerfully. Not because the world got quiet, but because you did. Becoming so focused that nothing can distract you is not about chasing silence or blocking every notification. It's about building something stronger, unshakable concentration from the inside out. You now know the core. Anchor your attention, flow without forcing, and train the part of your mind that's always watching. This is how you shift from mental chaos to calm control. You don't need perfect conditions. You need layered discipline, the kind that holds steady even in the middle of noise. Each time you return to your focus point, even after drifting, you're not starting over. You're getting sharper. You're training your mind like a warrior, not for a perfect moment, but for real life. So don't wait for the world to quiet down. Quiet your mind first. Let your attention burn clean. Let your energy become focused, balanced, and free from force. Because in a distracted world, your ability to stay centered is a superpower. Now, we want to hear from you. Have you found your anchor? What helps you stay in flow? Share your story in the comments and let someone else grow from your journey. If this spoke to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. You're not alone on this path.